All right, we are back. Episode 27 of
Welcome
Double
back,
Coverage Sports Talk.
Welcome back.
We have a guest, the producer of TexAgs Radio, Dalton Hughes, a.k.a. Daltino. He's out of the fishbowl.
Or Duke.
Or Duke.
I was going to say, you guys let me out of the fishbowl. It's nice to have some people that want my opinions and
That's
not just
right.
my button punching in the back.
That's right. So Dalton the reins are off, and he's ready to go. Also joined by the staple of Double Coverage Sports Talk, Mitchell Mason. How are you doing today, Mitch?
I'm doing good. Glad to know that I'm a staple on the
That's
podcast.
right.
I appreciate
He's kind of a host, so you can't really get rid of him.
That's true.
If his name's in the byline, there's not really a choice there.
Yeah, if you,
kind of
if you
stuck
get
with it.
tired of me, I don't think you can just tell Dalton, okay, well, we're gonna record now, but don't tell Mitch. We're switching to Tuesdays. I don't think that's how that works.
I think Justin's got the Tuesday slot.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So
You're stuck
Here
with me.
I am stuck with you.
Studio's book,
Yep,
man.
that's right. Well, we have a full episode of pigskin talk as well as a hint of men on the ice.
Just a little hint of stick and puck, huh?
That's right. So we will start with some Super Bowl hits. We just witnessed a Super Bowl that's getting it's getting some flack, but I am not team give the Super Bowl flack because it was a 3-3 ball game in the fourth quarter. It's not, in my opinion, one of the worst Super Bowls ever played. I would say that would be the Seattle-Denver Super Bowl that was 22-0 at halftime.
Yeah.
Wasn't the one that Denver opened the second half with a kickoff return for touchdown too?
Honestly, I don't remember. I just remember
It was
Peyton.
it was like 38-8.
Yeah, I just
Final
remember
score.
Peyton missing the first snap going way over Peyton's head, and
Yeah.
that's how the game started. Oh, and Luke died.
I mean, it's
right down
okay.
the chute.
It's okay to get choked up about Peyton Manning, man. I mean,
I miss him slugging back a brew after he won his Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Which he was allowed to do because he retired. Anyway, we'll start with you, Mitch.
Mm-hmm.
What are your opening thoughts about the Super Bowl that saw Tom Brady solidify himself as the greatest of all time?
Well, okay, so was it the worst Super Bowl ever played? No. Was it one of the worst Super Bowls to watch as a fan who had no rooting interest? Absolutely. I was bored to tears during that game. And that's not any fault of either team necessarily. I mean, both teams came to play defensively. I do think what was unfortunate for the watcher was, both those teams were heralded as just offensive juggernauts coming into that game. I mean, everyone saw the stat. Both those teams were the top 2 or 3 teams, depending on which statistical category that you looked at, in offensive production throughout the postseason. And so, you had a lot of people saying, okay, well, this isn't Rams-Chiefs necessarily, but it might be pretty close. And unfortunately, you got the exact opposite where Jared Goff was terrible. Bill Belichick and, what's his first name? Flores, the guy who's now the Miami head coach. Brian Flores. They did an incredible job. They absolutely bottled Jared Goff up. They covered his wide receivers. For whatever reason, the Rams did not give the ball to Todd Gurley at all. You saw a lot of carries to C.J. Anderson early in that game. And, McVay said afterwards that the game situation limited the opportunities that they could give Todd Gurley. But still, arguably the best player on the field, and he just didn't have an impact. So it was slow to watch. If you're a Patriots fan, congratulations. Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time. And, that's all I have. Halftime show, which I'm sure we'll comment in a second. That's a whole different thing. But
Yeah, we will say
I'll
we'll
let
move to
Dalton go.
halftime in a second, but we'll let Dalton
I
have his
didn't
opening
watch
thoughts.
halftime, so I got that going for me.
That is a smart
so
investment of
it's
time.
a smart decision. Okay.
Cool.
I enjoyed the game as someone who enjoys watching greatness. It's funny because, you just hinted on, they didn't run the ball with Todd Gurley. Belichick wasn't letting them run with Todd Gurley. Every time they tried to give it up the middle, and that's an offense that, as much as everyone says, hey, new wave on NFL, run and gun, sling it across the field 40 times, it's not. The thing that the Chiefs and the Rams do so well is run the ball between the tackles to open things up on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Belichick wasn't going to let him do that. And guess what? You have a guy that's playing in his first Super Bowl versus a guy that's been there 9 times.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to he was going to make Jared Goff beat him, say, hey, you have an all-pro running back. Well, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Maybe it's different if they have Cooper Kupp, but in my opinion, probably not. It was Belichick being Belichick versus a first-time quarterback in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. And the MVP still went to an offensive player. And there's been talks that it should have been to a defensive player. But Edelman was Super Bowl MVP, possibly solidified himself as a Hall of Famer. But, I mean, you can't complain about a 3-3 ball game in the fourth quarter, even though it was horrifyingly boring.
The only thing that you can complain about as a fan is just the Rams' utter lack of offense. I mean, what was it at one point, like 9 punts in a row?
Yeah, it was bad.
It wasn't.
I mean, I love me
to
some
watch.
Johnny Hecker, and that was bad. I mean, let Johnny Hecker throw a pass at that point.
It just wasn't an entertaining Super Bowl. I think everyone was probably in a bad mood too because the commercials, for the most part, there were a couple of them that were good, but
the PC culture, man, has killed Super Bowl commercials.
they really had.
And I'm not saying it's not bad to PC, but everyone's afraid to toe the line.
Right? No, we're
You
not.
got to toe the line to be really funny, but no one wants to take that risk.
This podcast of all podcasts is not saying go be edgy, but
No, I agree.
But to your point, being a little bit afraid to offend, a section of culture out there, and then have the whole story be about you negatively instead of about the game or whatever you're doing positively with that commercial. I would agree with that.
I'll put it this way though. Let me pose this to y'all. It's the Super Bowl. There's no chance you're turning it off, no matter how boring it is, because no matter which way you put it, you're 215 days away from pro football happening again.
Ooh,
agreed.
Or 7 days if you're an Alliance fan.
There's 214 some odd days until pro football returns again. Yeah. Sorry, Trevor Knight. Good friend,
I loved, so I follow all those accounts on Twitter, and I just loved, my entire feed was people lamenting, oh my gosh, that's a terrible Super Bowl. Now we have to wait, a year for pro football to come back. And the Birmingham Iron was very quick to retweet, Joe Schmo and his mother.
The Iron.
Saying, no. 7 days. And we kick off against, I don't even know who they play.
So that starts this weekend?
Yeah, Saturday.
I'd rather watch arena football.
Bring back the Dallas Desperados.
Some 3 guys who grew up in Dallas.
Hey now.
Who got down on some Dallas Desperados?
Come on now.
Yeah, I did,
who was
absolutely.
that old quarterback? He was a Cowboys backup for one point.
Jason Garrett.
No. The guy that was the Desperados quarterback for ever was at one point.
I'm just trying to think of
young.
backup quarterbacks like Vinny Testaverde.
It's not a name you knew. He
Quincy Carter.
My backup in Dallas, he had a cup of coffee in Dallas.
Okay.
And then didn't get another job in the NFL, but hey, we got arena
Speaking
football.
of, we just go down this rabbit trail. Bob Stoops is reportedly going to be the GM/head coach for Dallas's XFL team, which will take up residence in
Stoops
Globe Life Ballpark Park in Arlington.
For some reason, I heard Bob Sturm when you said that.
No, Bob Stoops.
Real interesting.
No
Bob
Interesting.
The
that guy does not have time for.
That's what Pro Football
Oh,
Talk said today. They released an article saying that.
Stoops.
So just
Wow.
watch out for that. I don't understand how that's, how
He's got
a year
health
after
issues.
OU, yeah, exactly. You pull an Urban Meyer and say, oh, never mind, health and family are fine.
Yeah.
Let's get back into it. But
No, there's nothing like watching a receiver have a 10-yard head start and then running a 30-yard route to the back of the end zone. I
Like the
love
Canadian
that.
Football
DBs
League
are
too.
screwed.
Yeah.
yeah,
The field's only 50 yards long.
yeah, press coverage isn't really a thing in arena football league.
You just gotta
You're
pray.
playing
You gotta
prevent.
Speaking of, we'll get into hockey eventually, but you gotta check him into the boards off the line.
Oh, well, so that's the Super Bowl. But the most interesting aspect of it was the halftime show. And you said you didn't watch it, which is a massively good investment of your time.
The only thing I heard about the halftime show was that I missed there was a SpongeBob appearance.
Yes, but it
was
wasn't
horribly done.
It was such like a tease. They played the beginning of the SpongeBob halftime show.
The Bubble Bowl.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it opened to Adam Levine, who sounded atrocious.
He was awful.
Atrocious.
So he didn't lip sync like Super Bowl.
Oh,
halftime
no.
numbers?
We
No.
wish he had lip synced.
Yes. And then he went to try to save the day by removing his shirt, which to I'm sure many people that was now
Well,
the
50%
halftime show
of the
saved.
population loved that. I'm sure.
That's right.
The 50%.
Well,
that
he is. Isn't he
occupies
like?
this show
Isn't
right
he
now.
GQ's?
I'm not that interested.
Isn't
sorry.
he? I think he's GQ's sexiest man alive right now. So, some people were excited to see that.
And then you bring in
That man has some tattoos.
I'm drawing a blank. Who did they bring in to
Big boy,
No, before that.
Travis Scott.
They bring in Travis Scott.
That was
who,
abysmal.
oh my gosh, how are you? Travis Scott fans have to feel ashamed of themselves. I didn't even recognize his voice. He sounded horrible.
He sounded he
Sounded-
did
yeah,
he
like you
sounded
texted me.
he sounded nothing like what he does on his tracks, and I
No.
don't listen to him regularly at all. But sicko mode is the hottest thing in music right now for him, and it sounded terrible. And he sounded like he was out of breath the entire 12 seconds that he was on
It's the
stage.
Super Bowl. Did he catapult into the stage or something?
He did pull a Lady Gaga type thing where she just dropped off into no existence.
Yeah, no, it was like some sort of effect where it looked like a comet was coming in.
Yeah.
And then it burst into flames.
Yeah, he sounded horrible.
It was bad.
But then Big Boy came in.
Big Boy was the best part.
In a Cadillac,
Yeah.
I believe, and then does The Way You Move by Outkast.
For 20 seconds.
And then he leaves, and it's back to Levine with her shirt off.
Yeah.
But that halftime show could have been amazing.
Well, here's the thing. You're in Atlanta. How do you do an Atlanta Super Bowl halftime show and not have Chance the Rapper?
Or the 10 or 15 other people from Atlanta, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of options. But the Super Bowl was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We saw the Patriots get their 6th ring. 2 different dynasties, I guess. They won 3 in Tom Brady's early of his career, and then they won 3 in the past
5. 3 of the last
5 years, yeah.
3 of the last 5.
Yep.
So it's like the San Francisco Giants or the Chicago Blackhawks, 3 in 5 years. Or, well, I guess the
How
Giants was
dare
every
you
year.
quote the San Francisco Giants on this podcast.
But I will use that as a segue, the Blackhawks, into some hockey talk with our local Dallas Stars. Dalton, we haven't talked about hockey since the Jim Lights saga happened.
Oh,
But I would love your take.
boy, would I have
on-
loved to have been on that.
Yeah,
day.
we don't talk a lot of hockey.
I would love to hear your thoughts on Lights taking shots at Ben and Sagan.
It's whatever. I'm not a fan of it, but could you say that maybe it worked? Yes. I don't know. They're playing better. But the quote that for me that always made me laugh from that whole thing, Tyler Sagan's hitting the post. So you realize that's hard to do too, right?
Yeah.
But you think he's out there trying to hit the post? No, the guy's trying to put the puck in the back of the net.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, he just secured another 20-goal season.
Yeah.
It was insane. It was crazy just in the fact of how that all came out and how it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And as a sports fan, I'm 100% in on that. Wish it wouldn't have been my team. Let someone else do that. But yeah, the idiocracy of that, who knows how that's going to affect them in free agency down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, Sagan's locked up for like 6 more years, so
forever.
not a big deal on that side of things. Still wish it would have been handled a little bit differently. Obviously, they were frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it wasn't going the way they wanted to.
Well, the thing that I don't understand about that is, the article was written saying we've had numerous meetings about this, and they need to get their stuff together and get it in gear. And then the next day, they asked Jamie Benn, they're like, "So did you know he felt like this?" And they were like, "No, we didn't know that." So, and then Tyler Sagan said message received, and obviously their play has improved. The team's play has improved, but still.
It's more that style of play than I think he was going from. I don't think Jim Lights, he's been in the league for a long time, been with Dallas forever. I don't think he said, man, we're just not that good. I think he knew he needed to light a fire. Since that, Jamie's been playing a lot more physical. The other thing that bugs me about that, I know say, why do that, whatever, hit and post. The quotes in there that, this is a great roster. No, it's not.
Yeah.
They've played 12 defensemen about this year, I think.
Yeah.
Or maybe if not 14 of you should skate 6 a night.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling me you're rolling in basically double that throughout the year. You're not a healthy team. You're not the best team in the league. Can that team win and play better than they were when those comments were made? Absolutely. They are right now. It's going to be funny to watch. I'm still not sold on the whole setup. They're bringing Jamie Alexiak back with the odd where you trade a guy 1 year, the next year you trade back for him. Almost the exact same pick compensation, I believe.
Yeah.
So weird, but I don't know. And I saw this tweet the other night. If Hudobin's their backup last year, they're in the playoffs.
Sure.
Ken Hitchcock's probably never fired. So it's crazy to think that something that little is making such a huge difference on this team.
Yeah.
But having a backup goalie is monumental.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Dobby's played well this season.
Oh, he's dang near unstoppable, and he almost seems like he's a guy that just has teams he could beat. I think he's like 5-0 against Nashville in the last 3 years as a goalie. So what happens if Dallas plays Nashville in the playoffs? Do you bench Ben Bishop and say, hey, we're going to go with the guy that hasn't lost to them in like a couple of years? So no, I mean, from you guys though, watching, I enjoy it and I watch it more than I wish I should say. I watch the off-color sports. If you guys have probably learned about me in our months of working together, I watch a lot of hockey. I watch a lot of soccer. And then I still watch a lot of football too, so you can tell how much free time I have.
The day that we talk soccer on this show, I'm probably not on.
We're gonna have to try to pull some strings to get the Sturminator on the show because we've got Sturm Jr. right here.
We got a lot of Liverpool red in this show if we did that. But I don't know. What do you guys say? You guys have watched the team a little bit. I know Luke's been talking to me about it. Mm-hmm. What have you guys seen?
Well, the thing you say, like, there are some lofty expectations about the Stars. I mean, you've got Ben and Sagan. But before the lights thing, they weren't living up to, I guess, how they should be playing as the leaders of the team and star players. But at the same time, like you said, the roster isn't filled with all these studs, and they need to be making a run this year, but they're kind of underperforming. So I do like the 5-game win streak. They're hot right now, but I don't know how they will continue to ride that. But you do bring up a good point how there are some possible lofty expectations for Stars fans.
Well, and I think coming off of that,
I think it's because they've been so bad lately.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's the thing is they had that 1 or 2 years back to back in the playoffs.
Right,
I think it was when
2015, 2016,
2014, 2013, 14.
What year was the Blues massacre?
13, 14. No,
that
it was like
6-0,
yeah. Right?
It was 14, 15 because 13, 14. Date myself a little bit. I was a senior in high school and they played the Ducks. And I went to a couple of games in that series. The next year, which would have been my freshman year in college, was when they played the Blues and got to like game 5, I think, and then all hell broke loose.
Mm-hmm.
Everything just broke loose, and it just wasn't good. And then they haven't been back since.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, that game 7 loss was
awful.
That was like game 7 of the 2011 World Series.
Was it bad immediately? Like as soon as the puck dropped?
Oh yeah. I think it was 3-0 6 minutes in.
It was pretty bad. Yeah. I mean, you got to the end of the first period and it felt exactly like what the Rangers game against the Cardinals felt like in game 7.
I actually feel like I went to that. So fun fact, I went to a game in that series that Dallas lost at home. A very odd Saturday noon playoff game started.
Yeah.
And that Dallas lost, I think, in overtime, like 3-2. Because I missed Kyle Simon's no-hitter over at Olsen that same day. Because I drove to Dallas.
You're right. Because I was driving home that day from College Station. So that was my freshman year. So that was your sophomore year, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was my senior year because I remember foam rolling watching Game 7 of the Blues Star series.
Rough.
Back when I was physically exerting myself consistently. I did go on a run yesterday, though. And jumped rope.
A run to get
congratulations
tacos.
To a taco 12-pack from T-Bell, baby. Come on.
I'm on a softball team this semester. We actually have a scrimmage tonight.
Are you really? I'm on a basketball team.
Scrimmage.
Yeah.
What's your team name?
Angels in the outfield.
Oh, nice.
We do not have Angels in the outfield. This is a for fun team.
It's a great movie. You got to go in there. You got to get into it. I expect some high sock stirrups, some eye black.
See,
spikes up going into second.
I played pretty competitive softball this summer. Actually,
didn't you get destroyed? You tore up your leg, right?
I did. I played shortstop for our team every single week. I had to make at least one diving play, and it wasn't my try-hardness.
He's like Jeter out there. It wasn't jump throw in the hole. It
wasn't
softball. Mitch is just an insane athlete.
Okay, I'm just.
He's winking at girls in the stands as he's jump throw.
He's got his number on his eye black.
No, but it's just kind of like, I mean, you played basketball. You have instincts when it comes to basketball, right? You played football.
It's called ridiculous. I hate losing.
Yeah, exactly. So I would dive to my left, to my right when I did not need to be doing so in shorts, and I would tear up my knee. And I had a scar all summer. All that to say, I'm really hoping I don't get super into this because it's like Sunday night. And then I have, I'm here the next morning, and that's the beginning of the week. I can't afford to hurt myself.
No, I want to hear. I want to hear some more stories.
That's right. I'm gonna start coming to games and start chirping at you if you're not showing enough aggression.
I had some buddies that played rec basketball at A&M.
It gets.
I used to go church. Oh, it was co-ed, so it wasn't as. But,
okay, I rep.
But I would go up there and get chirpy.
Oh my gosh!
With my friends, I would never talk about someone I didn't know.
Yeah,
definitely
rec basketball, intramural basketball gets very chippy. When I was a ref, cussed out a lot. Predominantly by girls in
Really?
co-ed games.
I can.
You sure they weren't just hitting on you?
Maybe I completely misunderstand what being hit on means.
That would be the ultimate mixed signals, wouldn't it?
But I did officiate Zeta Kayo. And Tyler Davis'
throwing a
girlfriend
couple
was
No
a
love
Zeta.
lost there.
Tyler Davis and Robert Williams were at the game watching because Tyler's girlfriend was a Zeta. And Zeta had like a bigger girl that they'd throw to in the paint. And I mean, it was one of these, boom, elbow to the girl's sternum. And I'm like, obviously a foul. And then Tyler Davis would be, are you serious? Let him play. And I was like, I mean, what do I do? Do I please the
Sir, she got put through the wood.
Yeah.
What would you like me to do?
I mean, so this girl got fouled out immediately because every time. And then this one guy was pulling up from deep. I mean, Hezzy's 3 steps behind the 3-point line. I mean, it was the best, most
So
chippy
he's
game I've
rec
ever
league
officiated.
AI.
Yeah.
This is the first time
Oh, yeah.
Hezzy's has been used on the podcast.
So Kyle won not to the benefit of Tyler and Rob Williams, but I mean, I was sweating buckets because I was either
You don't think you
You're
could have
asking
taken
for-
Tyler Davis?
maybe I could have outran him.
You're asking for like an escort out of the rack.
Oh, I
after
was
that
gone
game?
after the game.
That final whistle, you're out of there. It's like European soccer. You're the first one out of the stadium.
Oh
once it's
yeah.
over.
Oh yeah, or Brazilian soccer when the ref got his head cut off. Yeah. You hear about that story?
That's
Yes,
a
I do.
dark
It got-
turn.
no,
My
it did. It got like put on a
Is this
spike.
just
the ref
No, like
the ref
yeah, okay.
stabbed a player.
This was
Oh.
pre-Brazil World Cup. This is kind of an old story.
Yeah.
But yeah, his head got put on a spike in the middle of the stadium. It was like Game of Thrones out there.
My gosh. Well, history lesson here on Double Covered Sports Talk.
Well, I'm enjoying this a lot.
No kidding.
But,
Lo and behold.
I mean, you bring me in, there's no telling where
That's
this
exactly
is gonna
right.
go.
man,
That's
I need
exactly
to get
right.
you on next time I host. Just fill the 10 o'clock hour.
Oh.
If Billy doesn't hop on, I'm just going to have you.
I've done it. I've done that a couple of times. It wouldn't be the first time. Probably won't be the last.
But we will move on to the bread and butter of Mitch Mason, which is he has been a mock draft wizard lately. His mock draft 2.0 will be posted on elevatedsportsreport.com in the coming days. His 1.0 mock draft is out right now, but we're going to go over his mock draft 2.0 right now. Just a few notes on the draft. The Cowboys and the Saints and the Bears do not own a draft pick. The Cowboys
First round pick.
First round pick, yes.
Yeah, we're just gonna go. We're gonna take the weekend off. Maybe Jason and Jerry will go down. They'll probably go to Cabo on that new boat.
Will McClay just
That's
doesn't
right.
have a job.
I
all of a
wouldn't
sudden.
blame him.
Yeah, no, the Cowboys and the Saints have a second round pick. The Bears don't pick till the third round. So,
Yeah, but they got Khalil Mack. I'd say worth
well,
it.
they do. So I will have a guess for the Cowboys and Saints at the end. I'll be honest, I don't have a guess for the third round yet. I have no idea what that's going to look like. So, Chicago fans, none of you that listen to this podcast, just stay tuned.
Yeah, so the Cowboys traded their first-round pick for Amari Cooper to the Raiders, and he has
great
been
pick.
well worth a first-round
Great
pick.
payoff.
Saints traded up in 2018 to draft Marcus Davenport. They traded their pick to the Green Bay Packers. And then the Bears traded their first-round pick to the Raiders for Khalil Mack, who is... I mean,
You missed that one there.
I mean, John
didn't
Gruden,
you?
he wants his own footprint on this team. He's got picks. He's got draft capital.
He's got his own footprint. That's
So,
for sure.
I mean, it's his team. But regardless, we will start making our way through this mock. Starting the top 5 picks, it goes 1 Cardinals, 2 49ers, 3 Giants, 4 Raiders, 5 Tampa Bay. Mitch, walk me through who you have.
Yeah, so initial thoughts on this. First of all, Giants are at 3. I've mocked a trade between the Giants and the Jets. I'll get to that in a minute. To start, the Cardinals, they have so many needs. What isn't wrong with this football team right now? You have Cliff Kingsbury coming in. He's going to take over. I'm very intrigued to see what he does offensively. There's a lot of people saying that he should take Kyler Murray at 1. I think that's ludicrous, to put it bluntly. You just took Josh Rosen. He played 1 year in a system where obviously he's not familiar with it. He has no real weapons. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald is aging, so the premier status on him is waning. Ricky Seals-Jones had a nice year, but you need to see the Cardinals build around a quarterback, and I think year 1 it would be just way too soon to abandon him and go take a real big chance on Kyler Murray, who, let's be honest, if football doesn't work out for him, he has the option to step right out the door and go play baseball. Now, there's probably going to be a team, whichever team drafts him, make sure that, hey, you need to be committed to this franchise. But all of that to say, I have Nick Bosa, the best player in the draft, going to the Cardinals at 1. Bosa has all the physical tools that you need. He's fast off the edge. He's a quarterback hunter. I use that term a couple times throughout this mock draft. And he is largely the consensus number 1 pick here. Regardless of if you think Kyler should go number 1, I think you're going to see at the top of just about every draft board, you're going to see Nick Bosa.
Mm-hmm.
No arguments for me. I mean,
yeah.
When I saw the kid, he's the best. I think the big
one.
You don't really think I'm going to disagree with something? My bigger thing, I think we should roll straight into this Jets-Giants situation because I, for one, am shocked that last year the Giants didn't take a quarterback. So run me through what you got shaking out there because I like Saquon. I understand Saquon's the best in the game. But if the other night wasn't any clearer, you don't win championships in this league without a quarterback.
Exactly. So real quick, number 2, Josh Allen from Kentucky going to the 49ers. They need a pass rusher. Solomon Thomas hasn't really worked out for them. They've tried moving him inside, but there's a lot of unknowns, and the 49ers need a pass rusher to be sure. Jimmy Garoppolo coming back. Maybe the 49ers make some noise out west. We'll wait and see. Number 3, I have the Giants trading up to go get Dwayne Haskins here. Like you said, Dalton, they took a running back last year, and Saquon had a fantastic year, rookie of the year, but the Giants still stink. They have so many holes on that team, number 1 being Eli Manning. Look, regardless of if you think Eli Manning is a Hall of Famer with his 2 Super Bowls or not, you can't deny that he's not a good quarterback right now. I mean, his prime is very, very far in the rearview mirror. And so I think, Dwayne Haskins I have a lot of questions about him. His lower body is really, really sloppy when you go back and look at film. A lot of the times he is able to compensate with an incredible arm. His arm is a rocket, and he can make any NFL throw. He's fairly accurate. His lower body, though, he has a tendency not to square himself up. He'll throw kind of off balance on the run. And in college, he got away with that, especially against some weaker Big Ten defenses. Purdue got to him effectively in that big loss, and you saw Dwayne trying to throw kind of from all kinds of different angles. And, he didn't have a terrible game, but ultimately some of his techniques really concern me. But the Giants need a quarterback. They need one now. I don't think they're going to take a chance on letting him try to fall to 6 just because someone else might move up to go get him. No team in the traditional 1 through 5 needs a quarterback. But there are teams like the Jaguars, like the Redskins, like the Dolphins, the Broncos at 10 that need a quarterback. So I'm going to have them moving up here at 3 to go get Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah, I'm with Dalton. It was surprising that they didn't. I mean, it's hard to pass on Saquon Barkley.
It's really
so
hard.
Dynamic.
But here's the thing, and I'd say the same thing about Ezekiel Elliott. You don't waste a first-round pick on a running back.
Probably.
And I know waste is probably the poor choice of words there. You don't spend that. Your draft capital. Look at how many great running backs are getting in like the 3rd or 4th round. Look at C.J. Anderson.
Yeah.
The retread that ran all over the county. It doesn't take unless you're – I mean, the Rams probably do it better than just about anybody in using someone in different situations.
Sure.
But what do the Rams also have? A quarterback.
Yeah.
You have to start from there. You can't just say great running back. Okay, we'll get a quarterback later. You have to have the quarterback to do the running back.
Can you imagine this Cowboys team if they'd taken Jalen Ramsey, which was my pick that I wanted back in 2015 over Zeke Elliott? I think you'd have a championship-level defense, and, depending on what you did with the running back spot, you still could have had, maybe not as elite production from the running back spot, but I still think you could have had a really nice offense, too.
Yeah. So if you pick Ramsey, you may not be picking Jalen Smith in the 2nd round is when they took him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Regardless, though, he still slid, and the 2015 draft classes, the Cowboys, yeah. But yeah, it's tough, especially when you look at the Patriots with a guy like James White. I mean, you have a system you've got weapons on the outside, an offensive line, and a defense. Running backs are so. I mean, you don't need a dynamic running back. You just need a guy that can catch passes out of the backfield and block and pick up some yards. Interesting note here. Next, moving on. At 4, the Raiders are picking. However, they have a lot of draft capital in this draft, and they could possibly do many different things drafting or trade-wise. You have him here sticking at 4 right now. What
do.
And has that changed, or do you still think they will stick at 4 and then draft? You have Rashawn Gary for Michigan.
So I mocked one trade just because I'm really, really confident the Giants move up because their need for quarterback is so pressing. As I continue to study and read other mock drafts, get other insight, there are going to be more trades mocked here. I think the Broncos are a good candidate to maybe move either up or down depending on if there's a quarterback there. The Redskins, I believe, will move up to get a quarterback. Now, as I wrote in version 2.0, which you said is going live in a little bit here, the reason I didn't mock a trade this time is I could not figure out where they were going to trade up to. And, if I can't find the perfect candidate in my mind, I'm going to leave them where they are. The Raiders here absolutely could trade down, but they do have a pass rusher available in Rashawn Gary. Gary didn't have a great college career at Michigan. He's got all the size, the tools, the athleticism. He's got a good drive to him, but injuries did keep him sidelined for more of his college career than he would like. In addition to that, his production when he was on the field wasn't as elite as it was projected to be when he was, I believe, the number 1 high school recruit going to Michigan as a freshman. So if you get past that and you can just look at his tools, he will need to perform well at the combine. Obviously, that's going to be a huge factor, but the Raiders need a pass rusher, and no one's going to match Khalil Mack. I can't project someone to match Khalil Mack. That would be asinine. But I will say Rashawn Gary looks the part, and if he can be productive, he's going to be a very, very good pass rusher for Oakland.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what do you think about John Gruden, what he's doing in Oakland? Dalton.
It's bold. I mean, I didn't think that was. Maybe I was wrong. I never thought the Raiders were that awful before. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No.
They weren't like the Browns.
They were
like
going
this
to
is
go
what
to
the
the
Browns
AFC
should have
Championship
done
before
like
Derek Carr
4
got hurt.
years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's different, but it's definitely a guy. I mean, it's definitely a move that. I guess if you're John Gruden and you get 10 years, you're saying, all right, I'm going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess they all signed on for that and agreed to it.
Yeah,
and now they got Mike Mayock, so
that's huge.
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I'm interested. I still think John Gruden's kind of dumb. How do you trade away
Khalil Mack?
How do you trade away Amari Cooper?
Yeah.
But all right, so are we gonna go one by one of these, or can I pick and choose throughout and kind of have questions and dance around?
I mean, as you like, we'll keep doing like kind of 1 through 5, and as we get into these, I'll speed it up.
I think go through 5, but I definitely have seen some questions. I want.
Yeah, sure.
Run down 5.
Okay. You said run down 5?
Yeah, run down. Oh, number 5.
Oh, they said
Tampa Bay with the 5th pick of the 2019.
With the
NFL
5th pick,
draft.
the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Quinnen Williams,
Quinnen-
defensive tackle from Alabama.
Yeah, Quinnen Williams is, I think, probably the best one technique in this draft class. He was kind of underrated coming into this season, and not a lot of people had him super high on their boards, but he had a great campaign. He absolutely obliterated offensive lines. He's disruptive, and he's going to get into the backfield. He can stop the run, but he can also get to your quarterback. I think Tampa Bay, a lot of people have them taking a corner here. I think they go with best available. How do you turn down a guy like Quinnen Williams with his size, with his athleticism? So I'm going to say the D tackle out of Alabama goes here.
What if Tampa decides they need a quarterback?
That's
new coach. Who's the new coach in Tampa?
Bruce Arians.
Yeah, you think? I don't think he's sold on. How would anybody be sold?
I
on
don't.
James?
Yeah,
I
don't think
agree.
he should be. The thing in Tampa absolutely could take
Here's
a
the other
quarterback
thing too.
here.
I'll say this: that I agree in the fact that Jameis wasn't also getting protected.
No.
So you got to start somewhere. You might as well start in the trenches.
Yeah, there's Quinnen Williams. They could also take Jonah Williams, which I have going next to the Jets. And there's a lot of people that have Jonah Williams going 5, Quinnen Williams going 6. It honestly just kind of depends. In my personal view, they need defensive tackle as well, and Quinnen Williams is a very, very solid player. Jonah Williams will go ahead and move to 6. Jonah Williams going to the Jets in my mock. That's their pick that they get from the Giants. The Jets invested in Sam Darnold, franchise quarterback. Now they need to protect him. The Jets have one of the worst offensive lines right now, and I think Williams is a very, very good tackle. He's not as long as you would like a Greg Little or a Dalton Reisner, and that can potentially show side effects later. If you've got a super lengthy D end, A lot of times he's going to have that leverage over a tackle, but Jonah Williams is exceptionally strong for his wingspan. So I think he's one of, if not the highest graded tackle on this board. There's a lot of people that have moved him down even past 15, but there is still a lot of really, really solid talk that he goes in the top 10, and I have him going here to the Jets.
Mm-hmm. Looking ahead, we have the Jags, Lions, Bills, and Broncos. Mitch has Jags selecting Farrell, edge player out of Clemson, then Lions, Devin White, linebacker out of LSU, Bills taking Ed Oliver, defensive tackle out of Houston, and Broncos taking Drew Lock, quarterback from Missouri.
So my question out of there definitely came Ed Oliver. Who would have thought last August we're sitting here that Ed Oliver is going to drop all the way to 9?
Yeah. I think a lot of the reason that he's dropped is simply because he is undersized. That's agreed upon across the league. There are schemes that he will fit in perfectly, and his undersized, ability won't necessarily matter. You look at guys like in Atlanta, Grady Jarrett has certainly made a great career there.
Don't remind me about Atlanta pass rushers.
He might be on his way out. The Bills need defensive line help, and Ed Oliver's a great player. I think part of the reason he's also dropped in a lot of people's estimations is he didn't have a great senior season. He wasn't very productive. He had injuries hurt him. He had some spats with Major Applewhite. I don't know if that's necessarily a draft.
Yeah, but I look at it the same way I do at Bosa.
Sure.
That dude knew he had nothing to gain by taking the field.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if he would have been better off just never. What if he just left the Houston program?
Yeah.
Almost did what Bosa did. And then you wouldn't have had the verbal spats with Major and all that.
Yeah.
I don't know. That dude's an absolute freak.
He is. Sure.
I would have him above Quentin Williams if I was taking a defensive tackle. Oh, man, that guy, just you watch him. There's a reason he had a Heisman campaign as a defensive lineman.
Sure.
He's that good. Man, what was the next name that stood out here?
My question is, following after last season, Drew Lock was potential candidate to be the first quarterback off the board.
Yeah.
And now you have him at 10. My question is, why do you think he possibly dropped after this past season?
He's just never been Mr. Consistent. That's his biggest knock. He has a great arm. He's athletic. He's not going to run like you might. I mean, obviously not like a Kyler Murray, but he's got a decent pocket presence. He can step up. He can escape when he needs to. The big knock on him was in the SEC East when you're not necessarily facing the best secondaries. So I look at games like, they played non-conference. I look at even a game like Arkansas towards the end of the season. I believe it actually was the last week of the season. He just didn't do what he needed to do when given opportunities. I mean, he's missing wide open guys on throws that he should make day in and day out. And sure, he had a great game against Florida. He looked great in the swamp, goes on the road, gets a big win. But then you have a game like Arkansas where he's not hitting throws. And so I think the lack of consistency may hurt him. I did talk to a source. I have a source. And I asked him,
Sources.
what do you think about Drew Lock and what are scouts saying about him? And basically he said that, if you're high on Drew Lock, nothing has changed. If you're low on Drew Lock, nothing has changed. He had kind of an up and down week at the Senior Bowl. And so he just didn't really change your position depending on which side of the fence you fall on.
I think he was just someone that never stood out. You never said, man, that's a quarterback that I want.
Yeah.
And he had an opportunity
Dwayne
at
Haskins
Missouri.
did that. Yeah.
Drew Lock had a huge opportunity to stand out this year, just to be the absolute guy in Mizzou.
Now, I will say there are a lot of rumors that John Elway is going to take a quarterback at 10 if they don't move up, and he is high personally on Drew Lock. He really likes his arm. He likes his ability, so it seems like a fit there. If Lock happens to fall to 10, there's a chance Lock could be taken before that. Like I said, if people trade up, ahead of the Broncos, if the Broncos trade up to go get Lock, if they trade up to go get Haskins, who knows? That's the fun of it. This is all a guessing game.
They better hit on quarterback, though, because wasn't the last quarterback they drafted Paxton Lynch?
Paxton Lynch, that was
R.I.P.
that when
a guy that I wanted
that
to be
saved
a
our
Cowboy.
tail.
Yeah, when people talked about him coming to the Cowboys, it made me really, really nervous. I didn't like Paxton Lynch personally. His size was fantastic, but anytime you hear about a guy who is not a natural-born leader at the high school and college level, and there were questions about his work ethic in Memphis.
Yeah.
That makes me nervous. You're telling me that you expect him to come into the Dallas Cowboys, be given the keys to the franchise, and lead my team to a more promising future. I doubted that, and sure enough, that's what happened in Denver. The guy was the last one in and the first one out.
Looking ahead, Mitch has Cody Ford, offensive tackle from Oklahoma, being drafted to the Bengals at 11. Now, interesting note, the last offensive lineman out of OU only
Trent
put
Williams. Is there one since Trent?
I'm thinking of Orlando Brown, who just put up only
Ravens.
14 reps on bench press. So
Cody Ford is the exact opposite of Orlando Brown. Dane Brugler says that he is a grizzly bear in pads, and his film certainly shows that out. Cody Ford has moved up my draft board by, I believe, at least 10 spots. I don't remember where I had him in my first mock, but he's a great offensive tackle. The Bengals also need linebackers, so a lot of people will say Devin White will go to the Bengals at 11. The Lions need that linebacker. That's why I put him there. But the Bengals absolutely need tackle to protect a quarterback. Zach Taylor's a quarterback guy.
He'll be coached by Jim Turner.
He's going to be coached by Jim Turner. That was breaking news today. So I think investing in the offensive line makes a lot of sense for Cincinnati.
quickly move to your 12th pick before we move it to the 13th pick, which is your zinger in this mock draft here.
I mean, I don't really think it is. There's a lot of people that agree with me. Ja'Kai Polite, edge rusher out of Florida. He's terrible in run defense. I mean, this guy cannot put a running back on the ground for whatever reason. He doesn't have an ability to read the running back. He's not very good with his first step. But when it comes to getting to the quarterback, the guy's a master at it. He did a great job at Florida. His tape is electric. And the Packers need pass rusher. Clay Matthews is hitting free agency. They don't really have that guy that can get to the quarterback and give their secondary a little bit of a break. And so I think Ja'Kai Polite here makes a lot of sense for Green Bay.
All right, let's skip 13 then. We'll get back to it.
Okay.
That's where we're going to go.
Okay.
We'll go 14, Jeffrey Simmons, Mississippi State, going to Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Atlanta and pass rushers, a guy that I know people don't say Jeffrey Simmons is pass rusher, but inside, good night.
Yeah. No, he's good.
Going to add that to them.
Mm-hmm. 15,
Brian Burns, Florida State. I can honestly say I don't know this guy off the top of my head. Give me the quick rundown on him, and then will this be Jimbo's last Florida State first-round pick?
That's a good question. I didn't when I sat down to look at all this, I had to go research Brian Burns. Like a lot of these guys
do the research if you're going to do this. So I'm proud of you.
Well, okay, you know what I mean. But I had to like a lot of these guys, I came in with some sort of prior opinion on them. Brian Burns, like you said, I was not familiar with. He's a solid pass rusher. I don't think he's going to be elite. He's athletic. He's explosive. He's good getting off the edge. He's a little bit undersized. I think you'd like him to be maybe an inch taller and have an inch or two in his wingspan, like I said, to give him the advantage over offensive tackles when it comes to leverage. But he's got a great first step. That's what he's known for at Florida State. He beats tackles consistently off the line of scrimmage. And the Redskins need a quarterback, but like I said earlier, I didn't know where their spot was to go and move up. I don't think they take Daniel Jones at 15. I'm not very high on him at all. They do need a pass rusher, though, as do a lot of these teams. Pass rush is king. You will hear all the experts say that.
This is a loaded pass rushers
and
draft,
this is a
too.
This
huge
whole first
draft
round
for edge
is
rushers.
defense city.
I sent my first version to one of my buddies, and he was like, "Don't you feel like you're a little heavy on edge rushers?" I'm like, "Dude, it's a need.
Yeah.
Pass rushers and it's quarterback killers, quarterback protectors.
Exactly.
That's right.
So
And
I'll
then
mock
quarterbacks.
Yeah, I'll mock Burns here. Go
All
ahead.
right. So then here's the question. As I'm looking at it, it's funny. He says it's heavy edge, it's heavy offensive tackle, and it's a little heavy Oklahoma,
It is.
which is who you have going to number 13. Kyler Murray, quarterback. So you're going to get rid of one former A&M quarterback, replace him with another kind of former A&M quarterback.
yeah.
You really think the Dolphins will do it?
So here's the deal. The Dolphins need a quarterback, whether they do it this year or they wait till next year. There's a lot of discussion right now.
I'm waiting until 2021 for
with Tua and
Was there
Trump
talk
and-
they were going to take Lamar Jackson last year, Miami?
I believe there was actually.
I know there was talk
if
to
I remember-
Jacksonville.
Yeah. No, there was talk that they were going to take Jackson. Then obviously they took the kid out of Alabama. Was it Malik Hooker?
No, they took the safety or the corner.
Wow, I'm Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
They took Fitzpatrick, which was a great pick for the Dolphins. The Dolphins have had reportedly are liking Kyler Murray. Now that was before he went on the Dan Patrick show and wouldn't commit to baseball.
That
or
was.
Didn't answer any questions.
really disturbing.
How do you not prepare him? For
We could,
I have no
we could have had Kyler sitting there this whole episode. And you wouldn't have even known.
Yeah.
It was brutal.
So I'll be honest. A lot of people, when I do my research, a lot of folks are putting Kyler Murray at the quarterback position for the Dolphins. If they do go quarterback, I think they will go Kyler, but I could also see them waiting till next year or 2021 when the quarterback classes get significantly better. I don't like this quarterback class personally, and if I'm a team that needs a quarterback, I'm looking towards Nick Foles, Joe Flacco, Teddy Bridgewater, finding someone in free agency that can give me a year or two, and then being able to develop a rookie in the 2020 or 2021 class that can take over as my franchise quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I'm thinking on Kyler. If I'm an NFL GM, in whichever alternate universe that is where I'm an NFL GM, I'm not wasting a draft pick on Kyler Murray until he publicly says,
Sure.
I'm going to play football.
Mhm.
Because he's going to have meetings, and I'm sure he's going to express interest in wanting to play football. He expressed meetings wanting with the A's.
Yeah.
He signed a contract to go play baseball. Here's the thing. Kyler's made this, like it or not, like Kyler or not. I know people don't. I don't have any ill will towards Kyler. I want him to be successful. I wanted him to win the Heisman. He's made the smartest decision for Kyler every step until now.
Sure.
He waited to the last day to put his name in the hat. Put his name in the hat when he knew it was the best thing. I still think the best thing for him is to go play baseball.
Yeah.
He's
I
a
would agree
really
with that.
stinking good baseball player that never in his life has baseball been his number one focus.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
You wonder how good he could be.
Yeah. And we know he's pretty good in football, I agree, but how do you not, for like the length of your body, your life,
When you had people like
that
Deion,
guaranteed money?
yeah, you have people like Deion Sanders saying, "Look, I was in the same position, not nearly as elite
Yeah.
as you are. I would go play baseball. Even as good as you are at football, go play baseball."
Yeah, but if he really does want to play football and that's his true heart's desire, he can pull a Russell Wilson and scratch that baseball itch and go to spring training every year.
Yeah.
And it's what Russell Wilson does.
Sure.
But it feels like Kyler Murray would have a much more possible successful future.
Russell Wilson was never a first-round baseball player.
That's true.
That's
true.
That is very true.
This is for if he truly wants to play football.
Thank you, Texas.
Here's the thing, like he could put football's more risky, but there's a lot more reward, I think, because baseball he's probably got 2 or 3 years in the farm system.
Yeah.
And
How does Kyler kind of
But
humble
what-
himself to go ride the bus?
He's got enough money to not ride the bus.
You got to ride the bus with your team. Okay, I was going to say.
That was a joke.
I was like, man, you will be the pariah if you
That's
don't
a
do that.
joke.
I'll tell you what, it's very interesting. And if you haven't seen that Dan Patrick Show interview with Kyler Murray, please watch that because that is exactly where we are with Kyler Murray.
I think the reason I have him at 13, the Dolphins need a quarterback. They like Kyler Murray, and I think Kyler chooses football. I would choose baseball if I was in his shoes, but I'm not. So that's the reason I put Kyler here. If, as we move along this process and I get the feeling that, hey, maybe the NFL draft isn't his thing, absolutely. I am backing off this 100%, but right now that's kind of where he fits. Also, there's a potential that the Redskins really like him and move up to go get him, but
As a Cowboys fan, please.
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 I don't think they do. There are talks about that happening though, so keep your eyes peeled for that.
All right, my next big question comes at 22.
Yes.
So you guys want to roll through to 22?
Yes. Yeah, we can just roll through these.
Ooh.
Come on, Lucas. Roll it.
With the 22nd pick.
No. He's still got where we left off. We got through Brian Burns.
Yeah, so at
So
16, I have
16,
Zach
Zach
Allen
Allen.
out of Boston College, edge rusher. 17, I have Yadni Kajust,
The brother of David Kajust, right?
To be honest, I'm not
The wide
entirely
receiver.
sure.
I mean, how many other people have the last name Kajust? I'm pretty sure he was like that receiver, wasn't
Are
he?
you talking about the receiver tight end for Cleveland and
No.
Hard Knocks?
Oh, is that who I'm thinking of?
Possibly. There was a Kajust on Hard Knocks. He's a very physical offensive tackle. The Browns need that.
Devin Kajust?
What is his name? Greg Robinson.
Devin Kajust, tight end for the Browns.
Yeah, I wonder if that's
he
his
became
brother.
a star on Hard Knocks.
He did. I believe he's still unemployed, though. Greg Robinson was
'cause he wasn't that
terrible
good.
at the left tackle position for the Browns, so I have them taking tackle help, which I moved off cornerback. If the Browns could get a cornerback in this draft and postpone the offensive line rebuild, oh my goodness, pairing him with Denzel Ward, that would be fantastic. 18, another offensive lineman, Dalton Reisner out of Kansas State, goes off the board. The Vikings have a historically bad offensive line. They need all the help they can get there. 19, my first wide receiver off the board is Hollywood Brown to the Titans. I'm not in the minority in this opinion. Just about every other mock draft that I looked at has Hollywood going to the Titans, which I don't really believe in him. But hey, if you want a gadget wide receiver,
this would be the second.
He's got wheels.
he does have wheels.
For days.
He absolutely does.
Yeah. Who did they
just run that go long play?
Who did Tennessee draft? Was it 2 years ago with
Corey
like
Davis out of
It was
Western
like the
Michigan?
9th pick, right?
Oh no, Corey Davis was like pick
They picked
6 or 7. I want to say
Tennessee picked a receiver early. That was a speedster.
Yeah, Corey Davis,
Okay, yeah. And then Cincinnati picked.
John Ross.
That's right. So
That has not worked out for Cincy.
Hollywood Brown, I'm worried for his well-being in the NFL.
I know.
I do.
He
Before
may
we get to
hit.
22 real quick, I do want to get y'all's input on 20. I have Greedy Williams, the cornerback out of LSU, the first cornerback off the board, falling all the way to 20.
That's crazy,
I've seen him mocked as high as 3 to the,
man.
I believe it was the Bucks traded up to 3 in a mock draft. So Greedy Williams at 20. The Steelers have an undeniable need at cornerback. Do you agree with my assessment that Greedy falls to 20?
I mean, it's for sure possible because, like we've said, the plethora of edge rushers and offensive linemen in this
I'll
draft.
say no just because someone every year gets a corner, needs a corner,
Yeah.
likes a guy, and Greedy's obviously the best guy. I don't think he goes to 20.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. Like when I put this together and
I mean, you gotta guess. And
right,
play a little.
exactly.
That's the whole point of this.
When I sit down and put all this together, and it feels good to have one finished, and then you realize like even guys like Mel Kiper and Todd McShay who do this for a living get like 5 picks a year, right?
Yeah.
Just because people trade, the order gets shuffled.
Mm-hmm.
You have guys like Marcus Davenport that go way higher than expected. I mean, the Saints basically mortgaged their future to go get him. So stuff happens. He fits with the Steelers, but I agree. He could absolutely go before that. I just felt like there were some needs at pass rusher that teams that needed cornerbacks decided to choose that over Greedy.
21, another freak that A&M fans have seen a lot of the last couple of years.
So glad he's
Montez
gone.
Sweat.
Yep.
To the Seahawks, smart pick. Seahawks defense always needs pass rushers. It'll be interesting to see what they do. I wonder if they would be a candidate to go back end safety. With
Yep.
what's
The
yeah.
kid out of Delaware.
No, the guy that's leaving.
DeAndre Baker.
No, who's leaving Seattle?
Oh, Thomas.
Yeah. I wonder who
Oh,
they,
with him leaving. Yeah.
If they look to go
possibility.
safety, but you can never go. I mean, I like Sweat. I like Sweat and the other defensive tackle.
You're not going to go, as long as you hit on your pick, you can't have too much pass
No, you
rusher
can't.
depth. I mean, I think the Cowboys have seen that, right? You can't have too much D-line depth. I'll say that. Montez Sweat could slide inside.
The Cowboys also refuse to take a one technique early in the draft.
very
Again,
true.
it's another episode.
Yep.
22. This is interesting simply because of who they took last year in the first round, Lamar Jackson.
Yes.
With the Ravens, going all in and giving him a target
Yep.
in DK Metcalf, wide receiver at Ole Miss.
So I'll be honest, I don't envy the Ravens' position because Lamar Jackson's not a quarterback. I will die on that hill. He doesn't throw the ball downfield effectively enough to where I would invest in him as a quarterback. When you look at, and I did some statistical
won.
research. They did win games, but when you look at what he did offensively, a lot of that was through the running game and him using his legs. They did not have a single pass catcher finish above wide receiver 33 in a single week last year. So every single week,
So don't draft Ravens wide receivers
they
if you're a
had
fantasy player.
exactly the most productive guy, and I believe it was Mark Andrews actually. So a pass catcher had like 2 touchdowns in a week, and that put him at 33 for the week's grade of pass catchers.
Damn.
That is an insane statistic. They did not have a wide receiver go above wide receiver 44. So that says two things. First of all, Lamar Jackson can't throw the ball down the field. And secondly, I don't think they have a great wide receiver core there. Michael Crabtree was irrelevant last season. Willie Snead's okay, but he's not elite. I think the Ravens take a chance here and go get DK Metcalf, who can stretch the field. He's physical. He has great hands. He can do everything that you need a wide receiver to do, except stay healthy. And that's the big question. He's never played a full collegiate season. I don't even think he played his full high school senior season. The talent is there. He needs to stay on the field. To me, I'm very, very nervous about this Ravens pick. They could go defense. They could take an offensive lineman. But I'm going to mock a wide receiver here because it is a glaring need for them. Just will they make that investment?
They've been all offense. Last year drafting 2 tight ends, and Mark Andrews, and then my doppelganger, Hayden Hurst. I mean, DK Metcalf is a dog, and he's good, but like, I'm a little
They're
less.
They're poised for a trenches pick.
Yeah, especially with how much they're going to run Lamar Jackson. Mm-hmm. You need someone at left and right guard that can push.
But I'll say this: if you're going to run the ball like we know they can and have with Lamar Jackson, it's nice to have a big target that. Yeah. No matter, I mean, Lamar may be a little bit inaccurate of a thrower. Hey, just throw it up and let a big guy go get it.
That's right. 'Cause then
Well, and as options for this pick, I also considered Jawan Taylor, who goes next to the Texans on my board, offensive tackle out of Florida.
If you've ever listened to John Harris talk, you knew they were taking offensive linemen about 8 months ago.
Oh, yes. They need offensive line help. I believe, and I've got the statistics somewhere. Let's see here. Yeah, Deshaun Watson was hit. He was hit the most. He was hurried the most and sacked the most out of any quarterback in the league. So they need offensive line help.
That's not what you want for your quarterback coming off an ACL injury.
No. So I think they go tackle in the first round. They could go Jawan Taylor. I still have Greg Little on the board. I have him going at 28 to the Chargers, which is a little low for sure, especially when I've seen him go as high as 11 in some mock drafts. That's where I decided to slot him in here. Second round, Dane Brugler's mock draft, which he does a 2-round mock draft. He has Eric McCoy going to the Texans. I've forgotten what pick that was. But the Texans need offensive line help desperately, and that makes a lot of sense for them to go all in the trenches, like Dalton's saying.
So at 24, the Raiders have their second first-round pick.
From Chicago.
Yes, from Chicago, from the Khalil Mack trade. You have them taking Byron Murphy, cornerback from Washington.
I really like Byron Murphy. He's really everything that you could ask for in a cornerback. I wanted him to go to the Browns. I think he would be a great pairing with Denzel Ward, but when I looked at their needs on the offensive line, Yannick Kajus has done a good job of improving his draft stock, so that's where I slotted him in. He has tremendous ball instincts. Byron Murphy is a ball hawk. So I think he has a very, very bright future in an NFL secondary.
My next big question moving ahead is at 26. So you have 25, the Eagles drafting Nasir Adderley from Delaware, defensive back. And at 26, you have DeAndre Baker, cornerback from Georgia, who sat out the bowl game.
Yes.
Now, a Colts defense that was one of the best defenses in the league this year, and they had the defensive rookie of the year at linebacker. Why do you see them taking another defensive piece?
So, and I'm blanking on the defensive coordinator's name. DeAndre Baker fits.
Former Cowboys linebackers coach.
Yes.
I didn't know the name either.
Someone Google that for me real quick. He fits perfectly into his scheme. DeAndre Baker is not overly athletic. He's not overly big, and he's not going to be your ball hawking corner. But what he does do is he presses the heck out of a wide receiver, and he will control a wide receiver at the line of scrimmage. Matt Eberflus, that's right. He fits perfectly.
How do you forget a name like Matt
Eberflus?
Exactly.
I did the same thing. But
so basically, Baker could go to the Steelers. There's a big fit there, but he fits so perfectly into what Eberflus is going to do on the outside that it was just a natural marriage there.
And then at 28, you go ahead.
No, you go, because my last two questions are just pick 31 and 32, actually.
Okay.
This isn't fortuitous.
So at 27, the Raiders with their third first-round pick from Dallas, you have them drafting Devin Bush from linebacker. Now, Devin Bush, you say, is undersized, but for the Raiders, what they're looking at, what do you see Devin Bush fitting in there?
So Devin Bush can do everything other than just kind of be that big, imposing linebacker. He's quick. He can tackle. He's decent in pass coverage. Someone that I was reading when they were grading Bush for their own research, they said that if Bush was 2 inches taller, he would be a top 10 linebacker. He would be what we think of Devin White, who Devin White is terrible in pass coverage. Devin Bush is better than that. So a little bit more size on Bush, and you might see him being a top 10 pick and being one of those elite linebackers. I think this would be a good pick for the Raiders here. They need youth. That's the big thing that they need. They were one of the oldest teams in the NFL. I think their average age last season was 31-something years old on the roster. And a young linebacker like Devin Bush, who was very good at Michigan, who's quick, who can drop into pass coverage. He can also come off the blitz and get to your quarterback. I think he makes a lot of sense here.
29, I think, is a phenomenal mock pick here because, well, as a Cowboys fan, I'm weary because this would be a potential disaster for defenses. Aaron Rodgers getting an athletic tight end to throw to, and Noah Fant runs a 4.5 40, one of the best athletes in the draft. You have one of two Iowa tight ends you have going in the first round. What do you see from Noah Fant?
So Fant, I'm putting him here because he's an excellent pass catcher. He's not very good in blocking. I think eventually he could learn to be that, at least enough to where Green Bay can run the ball effectively. But look, the game in Green Bay is getting weapons for
12.
Yeah, for Aaron Rodgers. And let's be honest, he didn't use his tight ends at all last year. Jimmy Graham, for whatever reason, I mean, there were some instances where he was wide open, but there were other instances where Graham just struggled to be physical against linebackers and to get open. Fant will not have that problem. He's a matchup problem against linebackers, against safeties as well. So he's a defensive nightmare, like you said. I just think it gives Aaron Rodgers another option to be electric with and, may help revitalize a Green Bay offense that really struggled last season.
Before we move into the 31st and 32nd pick, at 30, Chiefs taking an obvious position of need at safety.
Yep.
They were one of the worst teams against the pass this year. You have them selecting Deontay Thompson, safety from Bama.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, injury concerns in Kansas City. Eric Berry can't stay healthy. That guy has battled through a lot, and Kansas City got exposed on the back end a number of times this year. Deontay Thompson out of Alabama, he has great range and instincts that I'd say will serve him well at the next level. He needs to improve that kind of first step, that initial read out of the break, but he can make it up with his speed. He's got good size, and he's a ball hawk.
So for Rams fans, they probably like you adding another piece to a ferocious D-line. You have them taking Dexter Lawrence at 31, defensive tackle from Clemson.
Yeah, so before I dive into this, Dalton, what's your question here?
It was more intrigue and of kind of what you're going to say here. Another freak on this Rams defensive line. It seems like they're playing the game well, and it kind of goes along to where I was earlier. The Cowboys refuse to spend on interior defensive line. Not that they've gotten great production out of what they've had, but they haven't spent that high draft capital on someone like this.
Right.
And the rich get richer.
There's a question of whether or not they're going to bring back Ndamukong Suh, and so until I know what they're doing with him, who has an expiring contract, they have an obvious need there if they let Suh walk. If they're not willing to pony up the money, bring him back, then I think Dexter Lawrence would make sense here. Like you said, though, they're playing so well in the defensive front that if Suh comes back or if they get someone comparable through
talent,
comparable through free agency, then Dexter Lawrence will not be the pick here. But right now, mocking their situation on a roster scale, I think you've got to replace.
If you watch it though, too, you got to remember they also have one of the greatest coaches at dialing up blitzes in the NFL, and Wade Phillips. So maybe if they think,
Cowboys,
if we're gonna get Dexter Lawrence, okay, buy Suh.
Yeah,
I got another guy coming in, and we know what we can do with it.
Exactly.
And then 32.
Here we go.
So is this Mitch calling for the end of Rob Gronkowski's career?
Yes. I do think whether Gronk retires this year or next, I don't know why he wouldn't. If the rumors are true that his back is truly as bad as people say it is, and his passion for the game is waning like they say it is, if he wants to go pursue a career in Hollywood, why wouldn't you start it right now? You're a Super Bowl champ. You're going out on top. You're never going to be the greatest tight end in NFL history physically, right? He could have been. His body's not going to allow him to be so. So with Gronk not being willing to kind of commit one way or the other, and granted, it's right after the Super Bowl, so he gets time. But arguably some of the best Patriot teams were when they were running Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez together, and you had that two-headed monster.
Yeah.
It was actually just one monster.
Well, Okay.
Two tight ends.
That's
sorry.
Oh,
If there's anybody always ready to make a poor joke, it's me.
oh no. So yes.
They really hung some points on defenses.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going home on that one.
Yep, that one's wow. That was out there. So yes, Hawkinson is kind of your.
You derelict. Owen would be so proud of you right now.
I know. I'm
trying to bring this
Owen is
back.
brainwashing me here.
I'm trying to bring
If
this
only
back.
McGee was here.
He can block. He can pass catch. He's going to do everything that Belichick would need him to do, right? I think he's a good fit here. I don't love the idea of two tight ends going here at the end of the first round. You're going to see a lot of mock drafts that have Daniel Jones going. I refuse to believe in Daniel Jones. Yes, he was the MVP of the Senior Bowl. I thought he looked terrible. He threw terrible interceptions all week at the Senior Bowl practices, and I don't believe in his arm strength. He can run, but I after watching him at the Senior Bowl, I don't believe in him.
So Patriots aren't taking a quarterback either.
I don't think so either.
What got people so high on Daniel Jones?
David Cutcliffe.
Was it
his coach
before
at
the
Duke.
Senior Bowl? Like,
Yeah, just David Cutcliffe has a track record of putting quarterbacks in the NFL. Jones has the body and the frame and the tools to be a good quarterback. His arm strength, like I said, isn't quite what you would like it to be, and his balls waffled a little bit in the wind in
is he mobile?
Yes, he can run. So that's definitely an element to his game. He's not a run-first quarterback, but he can escape the pocket and hurt you with his legs. Like Dalton said, I don't think the Patriots take a quarterback this year. It just seems like a reach, especially with Tom Brady coming off of another Super Bowl season. There's talks of him getting extended.
How about Hoyer getting a ring this year?
Yeah,
Brian Hoyer.
there you go. So
More rings than Tony Romo.
Come on now. Hey, Tony Romo's first Super Bowl. Congratulations, Tony.
So
You did it.
Very quickly, just to round this out, you've been talking about the Cowboys' glaring need at defensive tackle. I would agree with that. Couple options for them. Isaiah Buggs out of Alabama would be a good nose tackle. He's a 1-3 technique, depending on where you play him. There's a second-round grade on him in a lot of draft experts' minds, and I would agree with that. He was very good at Alabama. He's not Quinnen Williams. He's not that elite defensive tackle, so I think you would be adding depth there. You don't know if Malik Collins is coming back. David Irving is certainly not going to be asked back after just a train wreck that was his season. So I think defensive line really makes sense for the Dallas Cowboys. And then for the Saints, if I could scroll down to it, looking at Dane Brugler's mock draft, they have Joe Juwan Williams out of Vanderbilt, cornerback, going to New Orleans. I would agree that they probably could use another cornerback. Whether they choose the second round to invest that, I don't know. Outside of Marshawn Lattimore, I think they could use another piece. I just think they need a first round pick to go and really invest in that. But if you want Williams' depth, I'm not going to argue there.
All right. You want me to ruin everybody's day?
Yes.
Just remember, Kellen Moore's the Cowboys OC. But on the bright side, next year's the last year as Jason Garrett as the head coach. So
Yeah.
you got that
Supposedly.
going.
And then it's John Kitna, baby.
Straight getting to the top.
Hey, we were close to putting him as our OC. I was fired up when you showed me that video of him.
You were.
I mean, he's the quarterback's coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's next in line for OC,
Is that how it works in Dallas? Promote from
I
within?
guess. Okay, so Mitch,
Yes.
Cowboys, do you draft tight end or defensive line? Or do you get more depth on the O-line?
I'm gonna go defensive
Defensive
line.
line. It's bad.
It's a glaring need.
Especially
it's what
in the
you need.
middle.
You right now you have an absolute hole. Antoine Woods played way above what I expected him to play this year. He was fantastic.
And they weren't good, the linebackers in the Rams game. But it's really
got-
hard to be good when you
Yeah.
got defensive tackles sitting in your lap.
Yeah,
the whole
exactly.
game.
When Andrew Whitworth has worked his way up to Jalen Smith.
Oh, they were
and you're
living
like,
the second
how?
level.
Yeah, so defensive line, glaring need. I think you can get a tight end in the 3rd or the 4th round. A lot of people are saying Jay Sternberger from Texas A&M is a good fit.
Yeah, I mean, it's
in
a deep
Dallas.
class.
Yeah. So there's a chance that you could see him. I've seen Dawson Knox also mocked to the Cowboys in the 2nd or 3rd round, depending on what your grade is on him. So I think it is probably going to be defensive line and then tight end, which if you know recent Cowboys draft history, they have a terrible hit rate when taking tight ends in the 2nd round. So
Hey, Gavin Escobar was great.
Hey, we were going to until the Eagles traded up and drafted one.
It's true.
right
We were set
before
to
us.
take another one,
We were
so-
set to take Dallas Goedert.
I think 3rd round is when the Cowboys go get a tight end.
Escobar.
San Diego State, great.
Hey, how about the two-headed monster that was?
No more two-headed monster
Yeah,
references.
that was
Not gonna happen
an accident
anymore.
here. We may have found the tight end of the future
With
the three touchdown game. His first 3 touchdowns of
Blake
his career.
Jarwin, he's not the tight end of the future. He's a decent pass catcher, but you're telling me
Or
I think the Cowboys may have their pass-catching tight end, Dalton Schultz.
I thought he was more of a blocker. Schultz came out of Stanford with a blocking tight end
or
grade.
do we rebag Jason Witten to come back for the second year in a row?
Well,
He's got the new hair rocking up in the booth. He's
you
not
can't
coming
you
back.
can't play football with that hair.
Yeah, he'd have to take off the
confirmed.
Is it plugs or a toupee?
It's a plug system, I believe.
Gosh, it's pulling the Joe Buck.
Yeah.
All
I mean,
right.
we were trying to get Stephen McGee to invest.
No,
last
McGee doesn't have
semester.
money for that kind of stuff. Paragon, they don't let him spend that. All right.
But,
Well, thank you
yeah,
guys for letting me come on.
Yes,
I appreciate
that
it. I
is-
hope I didn't ruin anything.
No,
that was
you were
enjoyable.
fantastic. It was.
That is the mock draft hockey Super Bowl hits episode 27.
Can I
the
make a
double coverage.
request?
Yes.
Can I be back on the Wednesday? Let's do this the Wednesday before the NCAA tournament.
I'm
Together.
very fine with that.
Sounds good.
Sounds fine. We could
We'll
do
pencil you in.
a little NIT prep as well.
Yeah, let's just do the Wednesday before the NCAA tournament.
That sounds great to me.
So, where do you see Vanderbilt panning out this season?
What about A&M in the end?
That's
Wait,
ooh,
wait
yikes.
a minute.
Crickets.
Yep.
Thank you though for listening to Daltino joining us as well as Mitch. I'm Luke. This is episode 27 of Double Coverage Sports Talk. We'll be back with you next week. Thank you.